Welcome to Donn's Videos in conjunction with 29eronline.com. Today we're going to take a look at the Manitou Tower Pro front fork. The test bike was my trusty Niner Rip 9. Been through the war. Awesome bike. The fork comes with the extra strong, sturdy, tapered steer tube, the 1.5 inch down to the 1.25 inch. It comes with a nicely detailed compression dampening knob, and it goes from full fast to lockout. Works great, but I have the same beef with this as I have with almost all the other bikes, and that is I don't want to be reaching down here to try to adjust on the fly. Please give me a handlebar controller. The DT Swiss that I just recently tested, the twin shot, had a nice handlebar controller. It just didn't control what I wanted it to control. On the other side of this fork, you can see the air fill valve, same as everybody else. Put your air in, put your shock pump on here. Okay, and here's your rebound adjustment. The seals did extremely well in this test. No leaking, no weeping, hardly even any dust buildup on it. They just stayed clean. The fork has a nice heavy-duty brace, kind of a unique shape. Got a lot of cutouts in it to save weight. Oh, by the way, you can see I've ridden it hard and I haven't cleaned it. Nothing real fancy with the finish, just good quality. Your basic black, nice decals. If you watched my DT Swiss video, you'll know that the quick release gave us a bunch of grief on that fork. On the Manitou, they got a very interesting design and concept here. Basically, take your quick release, and all you got to do is turn it half a turn, and it comes out. Okay, it has some instructions here. Rotate lever until detent engages. Insert axle with instructions facing crown. So, goes in, clicks and locks, and then there's a adjustment here to get it as tight as you need it. Turn it there, pops right out. It's got a little shaft with a pin in it that goes in and engages and locks in. Real nice setup. One more nice little thing that you don't see on the other bikes. They put a decal right on the fork. Pick up your rider weight. And then it tells you what air pressure to run. Like I'm 140 and they're saying 50 to 70. Typically I don't use these charts. I just set the sag. On this one I've been running, I don't know, around 1.25 inch sag or so. I find that works the best. Well, that's enough description. Let's take a jump into reality. How does the Tower Pro really perform? Seeing is believing. Check out this actual fork test video footage shot with my GoPro Hero 2 fork cam setup. This test video was made at one of Sanley Park's tech sections called the Gauntlet. If you watch closely, you'll see how active and responsive this fork is to this sweet little rock garden here at Sanley Park. Pay particular attention to how active the fork legs are versus the much calmer motion of the bike frame. This difference in motion shows how good this fork is at absorbing the irregular trail surfaces of this rock garden. You can learn a lot by watching these videos, but the real proof is in the riding. The best way I found to evaluate component performance is to directly compare them to similar components. This occurred for this test. I just finished testing the DT Swiss XXM 29 fork, and Fat Bob handed over the Manitou Tower Pro. So I was able to directly compare the two forks to one another. This might not have been a real fair comparison because the DT Swiss fork is substantially more expensive than the Manitou Tower Pro. But putting that aside, what I did learn is the two forks had almost identical performance in the mid-travel range. In fact, I rate both forks extremely high in mid-range performance. I also found that both forks seemed a tad soft towards maximum travel. Sometimes I could bottom the forks on surprisingly small obstacles. I'm sure I could have compensated for this perceived softness at the high end of the travel by turning up the compression dampening. The problem is turning the compression dampening up affects all travel, just not the top end. And I wasn't ready to sacrifice ride quality throughout the range when I could take a little bottoming here and there. That brings up the next point. How did these forks handle hitting the limit of their travel? They responded quite differently. The DT Swiss, when it hit the limit in a big G out, would have a metal-to-metal clunk, and it sent shockwaves up your arm. The Manitou Tower Pro would bottom almost as easily as the DT Swiss, but it had some sort of bumper built in, so you did not get that hammering metal-to-metal contact. I saved the best for last. How did these forks handle the little stuff? Those nasty little roots that populate all the trails. First, remember, I'm lighter than the average rider at only 140 pounds. I've always had a tough time finding a fork that wasn't over damped and would go soft enough on the small stuff. This is where I found a major difference between the two forks. The DT Swiss must have been designed for a heavier rider. It seemed to have way too much compression dampening for the small hits. In fact, it seemed like it squared off the roots rather than smoothed them over. When I hopped on the Tower Pro for its first ride after pulling the DT Swiss off my bike, I was just blown away. A matter of fact, I went riding down the trail looking for roots to ride over and saying, how does it do that? Ah, it's that secret little coil spring. It's so compliant and it just sucks the roots up. The other little secret is the Manitou Tower Pro is highly tunable. In fact, the factory tech support people encourage it. They supplied us with an alternate lighter weight coil spring and instructions on how to install it. While I did not see huge dramatic changes in the ride, there were subtle differences. I could see that this could be a huge advantage for the real lightweight riders. The problem with bike testing is all good things come to an end. I got a call the other day from Fat Bob wanting his Tower Pro back. This unfortunate request gave me the opportunity to pit the Tower Pro against what I consider the industry standard, the Fox forks. My Niner RIP 9 came bundled with a Fox F29 FIT RL fork. I was highly interested to see how the Fox would compare to the Tower Pro. Curiously, both forks did well on the small hits and the roots. Where I saw a big difference was in the mid-range performance. The Fox was much stiffer and less compliant in the mid-range. As you transition from mid-range to full stroke, the Fox dramatically stiffens, so much so you rarely can obtain full travel. All the stiffness seems to torture my body. After spending a month riding the Tower Pro, going back to the Fox seems quite uncomfortable. This is a presentation of Donn's videos on YouTube. Also check out 29eronline.com for more information on the big wheel revolution. Remember, bigger is better.